Welcome to Cooking Up Fresh, recipes and tips for gastric cancer wellness. A live cooking demonstration brought to you by Debbie's Dream Foundation in proud partnership with HelloFresh. We're also honored to have the support of our sponsors. Platinum sponsor Astellas, Daiichi Sankyo, Taiho Oncology, and friend of Debbie sponsor Merck. Join us on Thursday, February 27, 2025 at 2 p.m. EST. And be sure to mark your calendars for our upcoming sessions on April 8th, August 13th, and November 25th. This series is dedicated to addressing the nutritional needs of stomach cancer patients and their caregivers by providing actionable information and expert access. We focus on answering critical questions about maintaining proper nutrition during and after gastrectomy, empowering you and your support network. In today's demo, our featured HelloFresh meal has been thoughtfully chosen by nutritionist Mary Eve Brown, an expert in stomach cancer nutrition. Chef Zach Edelman will be preparing an entree from the meal kit, while a stomach cancer patient volunteer will join to help cook and discuss dietary limitations and modifications following a stomach cancer diagnosis. During this live event, you can ask questions about the featured meal and share your own experiences with nutrition after chemo or surgery. As Chef Zach explains meal preparation, Mary Eve and our patient volunteer will cover the ingredients and their benefits for stomach cancer patients. While the featured HelloFresh dish is designed with nutritional needs in mind, we recognize that every patient's dietary needs differ. That's why we'll discuss substitutions and alternatives during the demo. All registrants who sign up by the deadline will receive the featured HelloFresh dish free of charge, delivered right to your door so you can cook along with us. Don't miss this inspiring, interactive culinary experience. Register now for Cooking Up Fresh, recipes and tips for gastric cancer wellness, and take a step toward nutritional empowerment on your wellness journey.
Hi everyone, welcome in. This is our healthy eating tips and recipes for gastric patients. We're so excited to have you here with us. My name is Chef Zach. I am a active working cook. I've been in the culinary world for almost a decade. Back in 2020, I was awarded Who's Next by Chef Gordon Ramsay here in Baltimore. And a few years after that, I received my master's in food business from the Culinary Institute of America. In general, I just love food. I love sharing it, making it, and seeing it nourish others. Today, I'm here with Mary Eve and Jen. They'll introduce themselves, and we're very excited to bring this presentation to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mary Eve Brown. I'm a registered licensed dietitian nutritionist. I'm also board certified in oncology with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys. We're going to have a great time. And Jen.
Hi everyone, I am not a chef or a nutritionist, but I am a stomachless patient. I'm a 15-year stage 1 stomach cancer survivor, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm also the programs manager for Debbie's Dream Foundation.
Amazing. Well, just before we kick off, we do want to give a thanks to our sponsors as well as our partner HelloFresh. Our sponsor list,
Yes,
Jen's going to list off.
Our sponsors are Astellas, Daiichi Sankyo, Merck, and Taiho Oncology. Thank you very much.
Amazing. So first off, before we get to the HelloFresh entree, we're going to go ahead and whip up a winter soup, an apple and parsnip soup, my own recipe. This is nice for, especially we have a dreary day here in the Baltimore area. Really nice to warm you up, a little sweetness, a little savoriness. So we'll go ahead and kick things off. With that, I'm going to just show you what we're putting in the recipe today. So it's going to be primarily, we have apples diced as well as parsnips sliced. And we have a little bit of onion just for aromatics. Now, Mary Eve, I know we've talked in the past, not all patients can tolerate onions, garlic, things from the allium family. Now, my recommendation just first and foremost would be to try leeks as a substitute. It might be a little milder, but we can remove them altogether as well, just for anyone concerned. Really, the stars of the show are the apple and the parsnip.
So Chef, could we use onion powder? Would it give the same?
Yeah, actually, powders are a great way when you're in a pinch, you don't have the fresh ingredients, or even just to add a little bit of that flavor without overpowering. Definitely to use onion powder, to use garlic powder. I would recommend if you're looking for garlic, there is sort of a there are different textures. So you want to make sure you're getting the granulated and not the flakes. Because those can be, a little crunchier, a little more texture to them.
And most patients without a stomach or going through therapy, they can handle powders much better than they can handle the real. Jen, would you agree?
Yes, I would agree with that.
So I'm just going to turn this on and get the pot a little hotter. We're going to add a little oil to the pot as well. I have just some neutral oil right here, a vegetable oil. You could also do canola, avocado oil. In particular, you want something that has a higher flash point so that if you leave it getting hot, it doesn't start to smoke.
You don't want to smoke.
Or catch on fire, worse yet.
Smoke causes cancer. And I love parsnips. I don't think people know about them as much as other root vegetables, but they're so lovely to use, and they're really easy to digest. So
absolutely,
try it.
And they have, just to kind of color their description a little bit, they have a texture similar to carrots and a bit of the same flavor, but they also have this very sort of indescribable earthiness to them.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, very good. So the sweetness of those two, the root vegetable and the apple, are going to pair nicely together. We're also going to add some thyme for aromatics.
What kind of apple did you use?
I actually use Granny Smith or green apples.
Okay.
The tartness, again, is going to add a nice dimension there. You could also use Red Delicious or another variety, but I think, again, the tartness just really adds a nice dimension. So while that's getting hot, should be hot in a moment, we're going to hit the onions first. Like I said, we have some thyme for that as well.
So we have people from Kansas.
Oh, wow.
We have people from California and Jersey.
All right, we've got friends from all over. Do we have any questions so far? Happy to, by all means, interrupt me if there's anything important.
Yeah, there are some good questions that are coming in. Sure. So, Florida too.
Oh, there you go.
Yay. Yay. There's a lot of questions about protein. I thought we would wait until maybe we got to the chicken area to talk about that.
Sure.
There's also a lot of questions about yogurt on here, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
So yogurt is actually low lactose because the bacteria actually feed on the lactose, which is sugar.
The milk sugar, yes.
But the question is about what is the best non-lactose yogurt. So when you're looking at yogurts, Greek yogurt's going to have less lactose than regular yogurts because of the straining process, so try Greek. Or a coconut is another option, a coconut yogurt. The important thing is when you're looking at the nutrition label that you see protein. So some of them have protein and some of them don't. So try Greek or try a coconut yogurt. The other thing is you can take a lactase enzyme with taking it. That's what digests the lactose. So get yogurts on here.
And that comes in the form of a supplement, right?
It's a pill.
As a pill, perfect. So you might hear the onions sizzling behind me. We're going to start that soup off. And we'll talk about proteins in a minute. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, so how can I add calories to this recipe? I'm always looking for more calories while I'm going through chemotherapy.
So for this recipe specifically, adding more protein can be in the form of like a solid piece of meat, but it could also be in terms of supplements. For example, for the dessert later on, I have some gelatin that I'm going to add in. We've also, we were talking about protein powder. Supplements can be a good way to sort of bridge that gap and get the full macros that you're looking for.
And there's other questions about supplements. I think in this recipe, I would, and chef, correct me because I know this is your recipe, and chefs don't like the recipes being adjusted.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're going to add a broth. I don't know if somebody would add coconut milk to this.
Absolutely.
I think that would marry really nicely, and coconut milk is really easy to digest because it has MCT oils in it. So it's going to change it a bit, but I think it would be an easy way to add extra calories in.
At that point, because to me it's all about complementing flavor. So if you are going to modify it, absolutely. But maybe even go a step further and use coconut oil as well, because again, it cooks nicely, and it's going to add that coconut dimension to sort of match with the coconut milk.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And going back to your recommendation for Greek yogurt, Melanie from New Jersey says that she is 16 years without a stomach and loves Greek yogurt, and it's her go-to.
That's awesome.
She mentioned one. I'm so sorry.
No. She was talking about she's 16 years survivor, and
congrats.
Greek yogurt is awesome for her.
And then Priscilla is saying, we're talking about onions. She is also a stomachache patient. that she loves cooking with onion, and she uses onion in 80% of her cooking. So we're all different.
So-
Some of
And
us
we're
can
alike
do
in that
onion
way.
very
I
well.
love onions.
That's a
I
great,
personally can also cook with onions, but there are some people.
that's a
that-
great thing. Not every person has every surgery, every treatment, and every anatomy. So it's really what works best for you.
Yes.
Then if you can tolerate those things, then go for it. I was just giving other options if you can't. Go to the powders. Yeah, we had a good discussion about, we think people who are taller do better after gastrectomy than people who are tiny.
Right.
That's our own theory. We're
Our
going to do
theory.
an evidence-based practice on it somehow.
we are.
Right. Somehow I feel I'll be the guinea pig for
Yeah.
that.
Because you are tall, Zach.
Yeah. So I've gone ahead and added the apples and parsnip. Now, we do have a little bit of time at hand. One thing to hasten this and to add a little flavor as well is you can take the parsnips, coat them in a little bit of oil, and actually throw them in the oven before you hit them in the soup. It'll give it some caramelization, some sweetness, some added sweetness, I should say. But for now, we're going to let these sort of meld together. I'm also going to add the thyme. Now, we're going to be straining this out, so it's not too important to take the stems off or anything like that. What I did, cutting it there, is what chefs like to call expressing the herb, and so basically just bringing the oils to the surface by cutting it. I've actually seen even some bartenders, they'll give it a good smack
Yeah.
or rub, and you're really just, as I said, just bringing the flavor to the surface. So we're going to throw that
Chef,
in.
you made a really good point. So a lot of times people they'll tell me, I don't eat vegetables, I don't like them. And it's mostly because they weren't cooked properly.
Yes.
They were overcooked, they were mushy. So
Yes.
try cooking your vegetables in a different way.
Exactly.
Roasting them is a fantastic way to do it.
I
Or-
always like to say, sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
I always like to say that if you don't like something, maybe try a different technique. And so exactly,
Yeah.
when you're coming up on something you don't enjoy, it's not necessarily, mostly because you're not eating it raw, it's something in the middle that's happened. So maybe, as you said, you boiled it to death. Well, that's not really going to do you any good. You know, maybe boil it for a little less time, right? That'll be the first step, maybe. And then if you just don't like it cooked in water, we'll try the
Try to
oven.
roast it.
Right?
So this
Try
is a really
roasting
good
it.
question. for
Yeah.
you. Yolanda.
So we got a good question from Yoli that she said that she got creamy Dijon chicken, and we are cooking that. So right now we're cooking 3 different things. We're cooking an appetizer that was curated by Chef Zach, and it's the apple parsnip soup. And then we're going to go on cooking the creamy Dijon chicken,
Exactly.
thanks to HelloFresh, and then we'll cook a dessert afterwards.
Yes, and we're about to get to that entree. One of the last steps here before letting the soup just go ahead and simmer, we have some vegetable stock here that I'm going to add. Now, of course, we've fast forwarded this process a little bit just for the TV magic, but I'm going to go ahead and just add the stock. Now, one tip I would offer is that I have the stock already hot. And the reason for that is, quite simply, so that it'll cook faster. The hot stock, we get added to the hot aromatics, to the hot veggies. And before you know it, it's going to be at a boil. I'm going to turn this up. Oh, perfect. Got it all the way up. And once that hits a boil, a term we use in the kitchen is bring to a boil, return to a simmer. You don't want to boil your foods. That's not cooking. That's just like with the
Boiling.
veggies. It's just boiling. So really what we're after is once you hit that boil, you're going to bring it back down to like a bubble or two, right? Just a very soft simmer. And you're going to leave it. Now, as far as how long you leave it, that's up to you. I would recommend at least 45 minutes to an hour. Even 30 minutes is okay, but really you just want to soften up the vegetables. You want to make sure that the vegetable stock is getting into the vegetables themselves. If you'd like, you can use chicken stock as well. It's not really about what you're putting in, although that might also be a good add-on for protein if we're doing
If it's,
chicken stock.
if it's a bone broth.
If it's a bone broth, yes,
So
exactly.
regular stocks don't have much nutritional value to them, but if it's a bone, I think a bone broth, and that would be fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it would be really good.
And so really just it's up to you. It's your preference. And also you can play around with the flavors. Vegetable stock's going to be a little more neutral. At home, what I like to do is I make what's called a court bouillon. So it's very simply just water, a little bit of aromatics like pepper, bay leaf, maybe some thyme, and then just onion, carrot, celery, what we call mirepoix. And you just let it steep, maybe a little lemon juice. And it's basically like a quick veggie stock. But it's great because it takes only about 30 minutes of steeping, and you can use it in lieu of water in your recipes. So, for example, if you want to thin a sauce out, you can use the court bouillon instead of just simply water to kind of just add that little more flavor. And again, it's all about playing around. So if you have an aversion to or an intolerance to onion, for example, you can just keep it out of your mirepoix. Simple as that. The carrots and the celery are still going to bring in an amazing amount of aromatics to it. And herbs also. Never be afraid to play around with herbs to help supplement those flavors. So I have thyme in here. We can also think about parsley. We could think about, you know, things with a little more of a, say, like an earthy feel to them, like tarragon. Or turmeric, yeah, absolutely. Now, one caveat with turmeric, it will stain everything, especially if you're using fresh turmeric, so just please be wary of that. Once you add even the powdered version into whatever sauce or dish you're making, it will quickly turn
golden yellow.
Golden yellow, yes.
And then you actually want to, if you can, and I think this would match with what you're saying, fresh black cracked pepper. The volatile oil in the black pepper actually helps the turmeric to get into your body even more so. But yeah, I made something last night and I put turmeric in it, and it's earthy. It's wonderful. Try it.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's very subtle.
It's very subtle.
But it grows on you. I think sometimes people at first are like, what am I supposed to be tasting?
Right,
But
right.
It really
what
does.
What did you put in this?
Yeah, it's one of those, it's like cinnamon. It's like, what did you put in this?
What did you put in this?
All right, so we have that simmering. I've turned it down, so the soup will be up in a moment. At that point, we'll strain it, but we'll go ahead, if you'll join me, and we're going to go ahead and prep our entree. So our partner HelloFresh has given us a delicious chicken, Dijon cream chicken with broccoli and roasted potatoes. So both of these sides today we're going to start with. And just as a general tip, you always want to cook your protein when everything else is ready. Especially when you have a thin piece of meat like our chicken here, it's going to cook so quickly that before you know it, you'll be waiting for your sides to finish, and your chicken is, well, it's starting to turn to rubber.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to go ahead and cut these together. I'm just going to give you a quick, if you'll forgive me, safety demo on the knife. So here we have just the basic grip, and for those of you at home too, you see how I'm holding my knife on one finger. Now that's kind of a pro move, but you'll see I'm basically feeling for where the center of gravity is on the knife. And that's almost always going to be here at the fulcrum, or what some people call the bolster of the knife. And you're just going to pinch your finger right here with your index and thumb, with your index finger kind of on the side of it, curling a bit back. The objective is always to have your fingers behind, right? You never want your fingers pointed up. And same thing here, and we'll go over this in a second, when you're gripping, you never want to hold your food sort of with your fingers pointed out, and I'm doing this wrong, everyone, so just know that, with your fingers out like this, because as you see, well, there go my fingers. So I'm just going to give you a quick demo, Jen, on the first one, and then I'll see how you do on the second one. So we're going to take these, and we're going to actually be throwing them in this mixing bowl here. So we'll get to that in a second. We'll coat them in a little oil. So we're going to go right down the middle, and it's always good to start with the tip of your knife because that's the sharpest side is the front. So we're going to cut it in half, and then again, cut it in half so that we have quarters. Now you see I'm cutting through, basically through my hands, and that's a fine technique as well. Just be careful as you're cutting. Then we're going to get to the point where this is the tricky part, right? Where we have your hands, and they're sort of, they might be out, you don't want that. So you're going to have almost a claw. You're going to have your front two fingers gripping, and sort of like, as you see here, making a claw. You're going to use your knuckles as a guide. Now there are products out there that are sort of a knuckle guard, but in my estimation, they're not very helpful because they don't let you get the feel for the actual food you're cutting. And because everything you're cutting is going to be different, right? And different sizes, so you want to be able to be adaptive. So we're going to take this, and we're just very simply going to come down, and we'll get about 5. So you see we have these nice quarters. And these actually, a little on the thin side, so the next one I'm going to cut just slightly thicker. And the reason for that is you just want some chew to the potato, right? It'll still be nice and tender even if we cut, for example, a little bit thicker, right? Almost like towards a home fry in terms of the cut. But I think that'll do a little better in the oven as well. It'll hold up. So here, let's give it a shot, Jen.
So I was talking to Chef about if somebody's really like newly gastrectomy or having a hard time with treatment, peeling things is a good idea because it's the peel that's harder to digest.
Absolutely. And I was curious, we talked briefly about this, is there any big difference between mealy and waxy skin, or it's just always a good idea?
It's all the peels, yep.
Always get rid of the peel. That's good to know. Look at you.
Look at you.
Now, I just want to make a quick note here. I've noticed your gorgeous nails are almost in the way, so just work on, at home, and for you at home as well, just keeping your fingers back. And if you do notice your fingers coming up, that's fine as well. Just make sure to be methodical about your cut. Don't hesitate. That's really where people start to get injured. And one other tip I really can't stress enough, keep your knives sharp. A sharp knife makes all the difference. It's gonna really turn things into a bad situation if you have a dull knife, not only because it'll be harder to cut, but because it might slip along the surface instead of cutting right through. And as an added bonus, depending on how you look at it, it will actually cut your skin in a more jagged way. So it'll heal less quickly if it's a dull knife. But that's hopefully neither here nor there. So we'll just, we'll both hit the potato. So again,
I get mine sharpened every spring at my farmer's market. We have a guy that comes.
Oh, that's handy.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really handy. There's a business that comes to the restaurant where I work and they sharpen our knives for us. But I know a lot of chefs take pride in sharpening their own knives.
Do they have a stone?
So they either have a water stone. Some people actually use, I believe the company's Works. They have basically like a belt grinder.
Okay.
And so some people splurge for that. There's all sorts of
I thought a steel was doing that. And then I realized, no.
Yes, exactly. So this steel right here, a lot of people think when you do this, you're sharpening the knife. You are not sharpening the knife. In fact, you are doing what's called honing the knife. And the difference there is very simple. Once you sharpen the knife, there'll be a little bit of sort of frayed edge to it. You're using this magnetic piece of metal to actually bring all of the pieces of metal in alignment with each other. That's the honing process. So at the very end, you get that nice extra sharpness to it. But yeah, so if you see someone and they just continually do this and this and this for all of time, it's going to continue to dull. It might dull at a slower rate, but it will continue.
Yeah, I was fascinated to learn that. I learned it from the knife sharpener.
You might lose some business if he keeps teaching you those tricks. But yes, always a good idea to keep your knife sharp. And it never hurts to, even those simple, I think it's called Mr. Chef or Chef Magic, they have just a simple sort of countertop variety, and those work great as well. So we're going to finish up here with the potatoes. Now you'll see here, this is pretty much just a portion for 2 people, 1 to 2 people. If you're just you at home, definitely have some leftovers, and that's just gravy.
And as someone without a stomach, the portions are pretty decent for someone if you've been out of surgery for a long time, but if you've recently come out of surgery, you probably need to half the portion. Yeah. The chicken's pretty thin, but cutting it in half for a lot of people and having their serving size for the potatoes or the second vegetable in half could work out for you.
That's good to know, yeah, definitely. In general, it helps that I think, although please correct me if I'm wrong, that these are simple ingredients, and so it allows you to kind of get a feel for how full you are and how it's treating you, as opposed to, I wonder what was in that's driving my symptoms.
And the slower you eat it, the better. You don't want to rush when you eat this meal.
Yeah, I've been doing some research, of course, leading up to the show, and I've noticed that one of the challenges might be that you are eating on a schedule as opposed to eating towards cues for eating. Yeah. So that's, as you said, it must be a challenge, but of course you also have to incorporate how much you're eating in each of those those sessions. Put it in the oven, but we'll get to that in a second. So we're actually going to do Jen's favorite, the illustrious broccoli. You mentioned before the show that you have some challenges with getting this down to bite size.
Yes.
Right? So we'll just go through it. Very straightforward first, of course, something that everyone feels confident with, just getting rid of that heart, right? That sort of much more fibrous, stocky part. We're not going to use this. Now, you can use this later on for veggie stock. I save most of my vegetable scraps just in a Glad bag, in a Ziploc gallon container, and I leave it in my freezer. And later on, when I'm looking for ingredients for stock, they're right there for me. I do the same thing with chicken bones as well, when I'm butchering chicken. And again, that's just a good way to have stuff on hand, because ultimately that's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to accessible, easy things to make is, I don't even have it in my fridge. I'm not going out to get it. So in this case, if you're saving stuff like this, you'll be in better form. So we're going to get to the potatoes and broccoli together, but we'll have this mixing bowl as well. And we're going to add the broccoli. So you see I just cut off the heart, the sort of bottom part, and we're left with like a tree, right? Now, some might call this bite size. I'm a big guy. I might call this bite size. But if you want to make it a little smaller, you can, again, just go back in, and you see I cut off like that smaller root. See how these all start to break off? And that's really all it is. You might have to go in with your hands and break them up. And it's up to you. If you want them small like this, beautiful. I think that is a true bite size. I think when people say bite size, they're talking about a nice little mini tree. So yeah, go ahead and try. Yep, exactly. Cut. Perfect. And then see, it fell apart on its own. So you didn't even need to break it apart. So, and then again, it's up to you. We'll have a few bigger pieces and a few smaller pieces. That way we can kind of have some difference between them, and that also we can play around with in the dish.
I think that, if people are far out, they can probably do the stalk part. What we talked about earlier was if you're really soon after gastrectomy, or you're in chemotherapy, or you're in radiation, taking off most of that stalk is going to help with your digestion, and just eating the floret part of it. When I was preparing this recipe last night, I was thinking in my mind, like, oh, how can my patient do this? And one of the things that the recipe says from HelloFresh is that you kind of quarter it and then you roast it. And what I said to Chef was that maybe we can steam it to make it even softer.
Yes.
Because that's going to be an easier digestion.
Yeah,
than
definitely.
just a straight roast.
Now, and again, to revisit what we talked about not enjoying vegetables because of how they've been prepared in the past, I think when people imagine that you're blanching them, cooking them in hot water, that you're leaving them there. But I really must stress 30 seconds, a minute. That's how long it's in the water. A good rule of thumb is if you're cooking it and it turns bright green within, like I said, a minute, you're done. The rest of the tenderness will come from cooking it in the oven, but it'll really help bring out that initial bit of tenderness.
And nutrition-wise, the longer you leave a vegetable in a boiling water, the nutrients are going into the water.
Yes, exactly.
If you're going to pour that water off, you're not getting any of the vitamin C and the B vitamins.
Maybe if you have a penchant for broccoli tea, then you'll be all right.
Wait. You're making that
Just
up.
kidding. Absolutely.
You're pulling my leg.
Absolutely. Just kidding.
I do want to mention that broccoli, for some of us who don't have a stomach, might have issues with gas.
Yep.
Is there a way to prepare broccoli to ease that gas for people?
That's a
Or is it just
great
gonna
question.
be?
I don't know technique-wise that they're, like, off the top of my head. I can't. I'll defer to you, Mary.
No, I mean, if you're really having, you can take Beano. I don't know if you ever did Beano before.
Or Gas X.
Or Gas X. So Beano, this is a good question. So Beano is actually a carbohydrate digestive aid.
Okay.
That's particular to cruciferous and beans and gassy things. Simethicone just breaks bubbles up. So instead of having a big bubble, it's little tiny bubbles, which is not as painful and easier to deal with. But yeah, the cruciferous guys, they tend to be gassy with most people. Right. Well, now if I don't have a stomach and things are reworked in there, I'm going to have more of a problem with it.
And what about activated charcoal?
Have you done it?
Yes.
And did it work?
For a lot of things, actually, it does.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
It's individual to the person.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will say, yes, it does help, and sometimes people are like, that was terrible, and I'm never doing that again.
What would be terrible for them?
They didn't feel well afterwards. Okay. So it's individual, right?
Right.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. I personally thrive on using activated charcoal before I eat something that will give me gas or breaded foods.
And it feels well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And there's no contraindication to it, so totally safe. Yep.
All right, so here we are. We've got our prepped veggies, and that didn't take very long at all. So now we're going to treat them both the same way. We're going to use that same neutral oil, again, vegetable canola, whatever you have on hand. Avocado oil, I know a lot of people enjoy nowadays, but it is a little expensive. So if you opt for another neutral oil, that's just fine. Olive oil is fine as well, although I would blend it with a little bit of a neutral oil just to raise the smoke point so that it's not in the oven burning quickly.
And this is one of my banner things, is that if an oil smokes or ripples, that is not a good thing.
Right.
That is actually a carcinogen.
Right.
So it's the smoke point.
Right.
And so olive oil has a low smoke point. So it really should just be a topper, an add-on. Whereas avocado or grapeseed, canola, they have a higher smoke point, so you can roast and cook at higher temperatures with that.
Exactly. Yeah, in general, I agree with you. Olive oil is more for salad dressings, something cold that you're eating the oil direct. And try some olive oils grown from olive trees there. And we were trying them straight up with a spoon. And I've never done that before, but wow, it just these flavors that develop. I never knew olive oil could do that.
And we just had a comment. So Sierra and Judith are proud of you, Zach. It's great to see the three of us together. I said bringing the band back together.
Right, bringing the band back together. Oh, that's very sweet of them. I appreciate
Amanda
that.
says, I sometimes have difficulty with broccoli.
Kale. I don't have a ready solution. It's going to be on the gassier side. I would try maybe another kind of green just to have that same color and to make sure you're having a veggie. For example, we could do green beans, something like that. And they also will have marginally more protein, not a lot more, but because of their beans. But yeah, as far as just actually plum substituting them, that's a hard one.
So this is my thought, leek. I think leek would go really good in this, and people don't know much about leek, but it's fantastic. It's a digestive aid, so it's very digestive friendly. I think carrot. Yeah. Carrot in here would go really well. I like the green bean idea.
What about steamed spinach?
Spinach, sure.
Spinach, I think would go fine. I usually tell people to start with baby spinach, just a little bit smaller of a leaf and devein it.
And also, yeah, the stalk. I know for a lot of people, the stalk from spinach gets between your teeth. It's not a pleasurable textural experience.
Yeah.
So we're just going to throw these in the pan just to kind of demonstrate what I'm doing. We have the potatoes and the broccoli are both done the same way, a little bit of oil and a little bit of salt and pepper. Now I have gone light on the, we're actually going up top. I have gone light on the salt and pepper because, as we will discuss in a minute, thank you, there is a significant amount of salt in the chicken base provided
we found
by
that
HelloFresh.
when it was interesting, we all cooked this last night, is that the seasoning packet of this chicken stock is very flavorful, and you probably don't need the salt added. But the great thing is you can always add salt at the end. You can't take it out.
Exactly.
So,
yes. And there are some ways to save that. To some extent, you can add a little more fat, you can add a little more acid, a little more sweetness. There's always a play you can balance things with. But in general, once it's too salty,
once it's there.
It's out of bounds. Yep. So we'll save this. This dill that I cut up and again expressed, like with the thyme, is going to go with our sauce for the chicken. So we're just
as a garnish.
And as a garnish, yes, exactly. So we'll set this away too. So we have the veggies roasting. We have the soup simmering. It's always good when you're prepping, even if it's not very complicated, and hopefully it's not, and that's kind of our objective here, to just sort of check in. What's going on? You know, in the professional kitchen, we pride ourselves on being able to do many things at once, and really what that comes down to is just keeping track, right? Sometimes you'll find me just talking to myself, like, okay, I've got the soup simmering, okay. But yes, so let's check in. We've got the soup simmering. We've got the vegetables in the oven. We're going to get to the dessert in a little bit, of course. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and get the pan nice and hot for the chicken.
All right, Jen, who's Melanie?
Oh, it's Melanie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So we have a bunch of questions about proteins.
Absolutely. I think now's a good time.
So are we going to do the chicken?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to get the pan nice and hot, and the objective there, like with any meat, is to create what's called a Maillard reaction. So that's a browning of the surface of the meat. Some people basically call it a crust. It's not quite a crust the same way as on a bread, although it is very similar on a molecular level. So basically you're going to have a nice crust, a nice crunch to the outside surface, and that's going to really be what you're after with any meat, but especially chicken. You know, sometimes when you serve the chicken, you say it looks a little dry, it looks a little sort of anemic, and that's because it didn't have a nice sear to it. So we're going to get this pan nice and hot, and I mean really hot. Now, we don't want to get quite to the level of smoke just because we're avoiding that, but we do want to get it nice and hot so that we get that sear. So I'm going to get
So as we're cooking the chicken, we did have some protein-related questions. Someone had asked, for Mary, are there specific protein-rich foods that are easier for someone with stomach cancer to digest? My brother is struggling.
Yeah, so I think of eggs. I think of ground chicken, ground turkey. I think of smooth peanut butters. I think of fish. I think any of those are pretty easy to digest. I know eggs prices are kind of cuckoo crazy right now, but
unfortunately, yeah.
But they're easy, they're quick, and using them in a different way. So I had a patient a couple weeks ago, and he goes, "Oh, I really found that I really like egg drop soup." And I thought, would you take a bone broth and simmer the egg in it right there? That's going to be 20 grams of protein, right? Exactly. In a really easy way. And then I had another a lady, and she's like, I really like fried rice. And I'm like, And so I tried it, and it does work. If you take the rice and the egg, and if you put them together at the same time in a pan, the rice almost sucks up the egg. Really easy to digest. So eggs can be used in different ways, not just scrambled. A quiche could work. I have a lady, she takes spoonfuls of peanut butter as her snack and just licks them like as a lollipop. And I think of ground meat, and one of them, she goes, well, that's in tomato sauce. And it doesn't have to be in tomato sauce, right? It could be in a cream sauce, or it doesn't even have to have a sauce. So I think of eggs, I think of smooth peanut butter. Yogurt, we talked about yogurt. I think of hard cheeses. I think of ground meats.
And for those who might not be eating any solid foods yet after their surgery, what about the protein collagen peptide powder?
Okay, so collagen is not a complete protein. So it's not going to be used for repair and recovery, but a protein powder can work. And a lot of times patients will say, I don't feel well. And two things are, I think, happening. One is it could have an artificial sweetener in it. So I would not get a flavored. Look at the ingredients. The other is the amount is too much. So you want to go between 25 and 30 grams, no more than 30 grams at a time. If you're going north of 30 grams, that's going to be really heavy and make you just feel kind of bleh, and then you're not going to eat for a long period of time. So you're better off with smaller amounts more frequently. So look at the ingredients, make sure it's pure. I like a whey protein. It can be a grass-fed whey protein powder. If you're going to use collagen, it may help other things, but it's not really going to help you in repair and recovery.
And are there vegan protein powders that you would recommend?
So there are. So most of them are either pea protein. They may have some hemp in them as well. Look at the ingredients again. So if somebody is soon after gastrectomy, you don't want to go above 2 grams of fiber per serving. And there are some good ones on the market that are like 1. So a pea protein that can have a hemp in it, but then a whey protein is really easy for most people to digest.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually unable to do whey protein. It makes me very sick, but I can do the pea protein.
Pea protein, yep. And so everybody is different, right?
Yeah.
So even though you may have had the same procedure as somebody else, you may end up totally in a different place because of the uniqueness of the person.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the same line of what proteins to tolerate, someone asked if there are specific food or drinks that can alleviate nausea during treatment. So maybe not protein specific, but any kind of food while they're during chemo or even just dealing with the after effects of the surgery.
You've got one right there. Yeah. Don't you? Yeah.
Ginger?
Ginger.
Yep, that's what I was going to say too.
I love this guy. So he is a natural anti-nausea property. So nausea is going to be worse in the setting that something has a lot of odor to it, something that has a lot of fat in it, a lot of sugar in it. So neutral, room temperature yogurt can work. Nut butters can work. Sandwiches can sometimes work. Not much bread, but more of the cheese and maybe some turkey. But then using ginger. If you like ginger, you can make a ginger syrup really easily. You take 2 cups of water, chop up the ginger, simmer it for 15, 20 minutes, strain it off, and you can keep that syrup in your refrigerator for a week or so. You can add that to recipes, but you can also sip on it warm. I love it. Love ginger.
Yeah, definitely a lot of great applications for it. It's kind of, for me, it's the go-to as far as my own nausea at the very least, but any level even. Mild nausea, intense nausea, it's like instantly gone.
Yeah, so there are ginger teas on the market. They don't have as much of the anti-nauseant properties to them. You really want to use the root. Or I've been using crystallized ginger lately.
Yes. And I actually, just as an addition to that, we'll go to our handy-dandy fridge here. And I found a great product that a lot of grocery stores have, which is basically a paste.
Oh, perfect.
Pre-minced, and it's, as it says right on the package, it's fresh for weeks. And so this is a good way to get what you're after, because a lot of times with, for example, garlic, ginger, the hardest part is the preparation.
Yeah.
It's sticky on your fingers, it's small, it's hard to cut. So things like garlic and ginger, they have those kinds of pre-cut things. And there's no shame in that. I think a lot of chefs take pride in being able to work very quickly and produce things that are very unique or very hard to do. But there really is no shame, right? It's all about just making things that make you feel good and enjoying it.
And if you're sick,
especially,
you're not wanting to stand at the kitchen and do a bunch of stuff, right? So using things that are easy to prepare.
And not just to point out too, this recipe would be good when you're sick too. I mean, it really is very simple, very few steps.
I agree.
And I think that it would be really nice. Let's move right now to the step where we sear off the chicken. So we have our pan nice and hot. There actually was a very mild ripple, so I actually took it off the heat. So in the future, just kind of keep ahead of that. You're going to use the back of your hand to feel the pan, and that's basically just when it feels hot. I mean, it's a relative thing, but you do want to err on the side of not quite too hot, Mary Eve, as you mentioned, so that it's not smoking. But we're going to have this nice and hot, and we're going to go right over to our chicken, and we're going to get that in the pan. So just drizzle a little oil right on there. And if you want, spread it around just a little with your fingers. Now,
So is it easier to spread the oil on the chicken first and not put it in the pan?
Yes, exactly. Now, I also have some oil in the pan, so you don't necessarily even need to add oil to the surface of the chicken. But what I like to do that for is to make the surface completely uniform so that the whole surface is going to contact the hot pan. We're going to hit just a little salt and pepper. Now, that's the recommendation of HelloFresh. If you'd like to sort of plus it up with your own spices, ginger and nutmeg are actually great seasoning for chicken. They go well with a lot of things, very versatile. If you'd like, you can also give it a flip and hit it with some oil on that side. For our purposes, we'll just go ahead and keep the one side seasoned. In the kitchen, we call this your prezzo side, your presentation side. So we're going to put it in the pan first.
Is that a real word?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Absolutely, yeah.
What language is that?
Kitchen
Okay,
English.
kitchen language.
So we'll go ahead and you hear that nice sear. And we're going to just let that go for a minute. Now you want to make sure you have a sizzle to it. Like we talked about earlier, a sizzle is a good sign.
Right.
Right? So we'll go ahead and just wash my hands real quick. So while that cooks, the time that HelloFresh recommends is, I believe, 3 to 4 minutes per side. And as we talked about before the show too, for thin meats, especially chicken, because it's so visible, a good rule of thumb is once the side of the meat is white, it's ready to flip. And so we'll just try to keep 3 to 4 minutes. Again, no shame if you need to use a timer. There's a lot of cute ones out there shaped like apples or hourglasses to help you with things and just keep track. While that's searing, and we're about, let's say 30 seconds to a minute out, to those of you counting at home, we're going to go ahead and take, I've already done this, we've taken about 4 teaspoons of water, and we're going to take this chicken base, put it right in here to dilute it. So now we have just the chicken base and the 4 tablespoons of water, and we're also going to add in our Dijon mustard. So this is going to be the foundation for the sauce that we make once the chicken is out of the pan. Now this is what's known as a pan sauce, and this is probably the most common kind of sauce making in the professional kitchen, in the culinary world. You know, there are plenty of sauces that take hours to make and you let them sit and so on and so forth, but really it can be as simple as you cook some meat in a pan, you use the drippings to make the base for your sauce.
Hey, Jen, there's a question for you.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to eat full meals after your surgery?
Oh, that is a good
Great
question. So I personally had a lot of complications after my surgery. So I was NPO for a long time. And so I went through a process where it was 2 weeks of clear liquids once I was finally cleared from being able to swallow. And then I had, then I could add in full liquids for the next week. And if I tolerated that well, then I can add on soft foods. And then after that, I can finally add in full foods. So already, that's already over a month after my surgery. So I would say to be able to eat like a full meal, probably 6 months before I could at least like have like a meat and then a side dish and then maybe a second side dish. For me, I could pretty much tolerate one meat and one side dish, and then sometimes it's just the meat. That's all I could eat. It just depends on the day for me, but it took me at least 6 months at minimum to be able to eat a full meal. And then after a year, it got easier for me, but I eat very slowly. So like the meal that we're preparing for HelloFresh right now, I can eat the whole thing, the whole piece of chicken, because it's small, and the serving of potatoes and the serving of broccoli, but it takes me an hour or a little bit more to eat all of it.
And so there's another question. Do you have dumping?
I don't have dumping anymore. I used to have dumping. I put my dumping symptoms, so at least for the digestive dumping, alleviated within 6 months. But the late dumping that I deal with is reactive hypoglycemia. I wear a continuous glucose monitor because of that. That is the dumping that I have to deal with. And it really depends on the meal and how much I eat, but that's why I eat slowly, so it prevents my sugar from spiking and then dropping.
Once again, we come back to the theme, which I think is really the most important, of listening to your body, listening to what works for you or seeing what works for you as far as different ingredients, different portion sizes. Ultimately, you are, I think, the patient themselves is the best arbiter of that.
Yeah. Zach, there's a question about if the soup is too thick, how can I thin it out but not compromise the flavor of it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, with a court bouillon, chicken stock, vegetable stock, that's a great substitute for water in any circumstance, but especially in thinning something out. If you are sort of stuck with water, so to speak, even just a little bit of lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, just some kind, or now I know we can also briefly talk about alcohol, but just like a splash of white wine, something to give it some flavor is fine. And ultimately, if you are thinning it out, you can also add more seasoning to whatever you have. So for example, if you have a sauce, you've thinned it out, you see it's too, the consistency isn't right, and maybe even the flavor is compromised, add a little bit more aromatics, a little bit more herb, a little bit more pepper to just bring it back to the flavor, at least, that you're looking for.
We have 15 minutes. We have 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. So we have here the chicken, and it's actually almost ready. We got a nice brown sear to it. And this will actually be ready in about 2 minutes.
Perfect.
So while that's getting done, we're going to go ahead and get started on our dessert. And that'll poach while we finish up with the soup and the entree. So we have here a pear, and we're just going to peel this very quickly. This is going to be our dessert. We have Bartlett pears here, but if you prefer Bosc, that's fine too. And really simple dessert here. We're just going to poach these in a bit of water, steeped in cinnamon, clove, a little bit of lemon juice, and then we're going to serve it with a bit of Greek yogurt. And then we'll take that same sauce that we poached, we'll add a little gelatin, and that'll be our syrup for the dish as well.
I always say invest in good things. Like get a good peeler.
Definitely.
It makes it so much easier than struggling with the peeler.
Especially in the commercial kitchen when you're doing it a million pears a day.
Yeah, get a good peeler.
It's absolutely worth it. So we're just going to do the one pear since we're just doing a small dessert today.
There's another question. So this person is asking, I can't drink a glass of milk without having extreme digestive stress, but I can eat a milk-based soup. It seems to be easier. Why would that be? The only thing I can think of is that a glass of milk has a high lactose amount, 12 to 13 grams. But if I have a cream-based soup, it might not be milk that's in it. It might be cream, and cream has no lactose in it. Or it might be a cup of milk to a pot of soup.
Right.
So I think it has to do with the amount of lactose that you're doing at the time.
In the particular
That would
recipe,
make sense. That makes
a lot of sense. Oh wow! So we're looking good on the sides too. We're getting there. Cooked very quickly, and that also cutting them in a bite size is also going to have them cook more quickly. So again, easy all the way around. Our chicken is actually just about done, and like I said, you can always give it the sort of touch test. Feels about ready, so we're going to take it, and again, about ready, so we're going to take it off and let it rest. And now we have the basis for our sauce. So right here we have a lot of sort of drippings and sort of like residue from the chicken as it's seared. And that's exactly what we're going to take this mixture of the chicken stock concentrate and Dijon mustard. Go ahead and throw it in the pan. There's that sizzle you talked about. Oh no, we're all good, yeah. So that chicken packet, what we had done just before, is we'll dilute it in the water first. You don't want to put it right in the pan because it actually will most likely burn. There we go.
Oh, you diluted the chicken thing?
Yes, that's actually part of the instructions. It's a very small sort of, let's call it a subtitle. Yeah, so definitely read the instructions. But by all means, as I'm illustrating here, the reason is that water is going to help lift off all of that stuff that's stuck to the pan, and the heat and the liquid is going to do that together. And then very quickly, we have the base for our sauce. All we're going to do now is take the sour cream provided by HelloFresh and a little bit of butter. So I'm actually going to take this butter now and let it start to melt. And the sour cream.
Yeah, I think there was a question about rubbery chicken.
Yes. So as I mentioned before, a marinade is a great defense against rubberiness, but also just letting it rest instead of cooking it all all the way to the end. As we have now, it's resting. It's still going to be nice and hot for at least another 10 minutes. Still like piping hot, right? And it'll be nice and moist throughout because you haven't cooked every last stitch of water out of it.
The other thing that's really important, I think you said too, like 165 is really where you want to be.
Yes.
So if you're immunocompromised, you don't want to be eating undercooked foods because that can lead to a problem.
Absolutely.
Invest in a good meat thermometer. That would be the the other one.
Once again, investing in good tools to begin with. I think the phrase is buy it nice or buy it twice. It's always good to have a meat thermometer and your other essential tools at hand. We're going to throw just the majority of the chopped dill that I have here to the Dijon and cream mix. And folks, our sauce is about ready. So I'm going to take it off the heat.
It's a comment for the chef. June says, this is fun. I love being able to cook along with you. I learned that I need to sear the chicken. I often cook on medium only, and it doesn't get that crust. Thank you for encouraging me to turn up the heat.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help. And it really makes all the difference. And honestly, it makes the process faster as well,
Right.
But I get the hesitance sometimes when it's like, gosh, I don't want to cook it too hot, and so you play the middle. But in this case, go for broke. So we have our chicken ready. We have our sauce ready. Our veggies, actually, if we look in the oven, are about ready, and we can let them sit just for a minute before we plate. We're going to go ahead and just finish our pear here. Now, you could do this a couple of different ways as far as getting the middle out. I'm going to sort of go in with a bit of a triangle to get the middle out. You can also use a spoon to get this part out. Or if you want, and we can do this for this one, just go ahead and cut it down the middle and then sort of cut along, because it's not very much of the pear that's unusable, just that sort of middle pith part. So we'll take this and we'll just cut it like that and get these two pieces. And so we'll actually do the same for this.
So as he's preparing the pears, it brings you up to my earlier days when fruit really bothered me when trying to eat it. When I had the dumping syndrome, it was always because of fruit. And so this leads to a question that we did get in terms of sugars and being digested. They said my sister and I had to get our stomachs removed because we have CDH1. My sister does not seem to react to carbs or sugars like I do, but I go full-blown hypoglycemic, but she just has a little bit of diarrhea. Why? Why do some people have the full hypoglycemia effects, and then why do some people just...
I think it goes back to the uniqueness of the person and the anatomy. And I see it all the time. I have people go through the exact same treatment, have different side effects, same surgeries, different side effects. I think it's the uniqueness of the individual person. And then finding, hopefully you partner with an oncology dietitian to get you on the right track, and trial and error to see what works best with you. So, and you had actually just mentioned a little while ago, there's two different types of dumping. There's immediate dumping, and then there's delayed dumping.
Yeah.
So when you have immediate dumping, that can be like, oh, terrible diarrhea, sweaty, clammy. Delayed can be, I got to go to bed right now. Yeah. It's because of the blood sugar drop. So not all dumping is the same. And then also the individual person can have different experiences because of the individual person.
Right. Thank you.
That definitely seems to be the theme of the day.
I think that's our theme.
But I think it's an important one.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary. It really depends on your own sort of systems, your metabolism, any and everything. We'll go ahead and fast forward a little. We have the soup ready at hand. I had a batch already made.
Show my most favorite thing that you used.
Oh, the strainer?
The immersion blender.
Oh, the immersion blender, of course. So this is what we're going to do, and I'll just
love
demonstrate quickly. So this is a great tool. It's called an immersion blender. And basically, this soup, now, realistically, we'd have it sit for a little longer, but all you're going to do is activate and blend right in the pot. It's
so much easier than trying to take stuff out of a pot and stick it in a blender and then put it back in a pot.
Exactly.
And sometimes pureed and blended foods are really easy. I don't know, Jen, if you found that easier to digest soon after gastrectomy.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful tool to use.
Yes, most
right?
definitely.
I can blend everything in the vessel.
Yeah, I definitely prefer to eat soups in the very like a really nice hearty soup.
Yeah.
Because the vegetables were soft, the meat was soft, and then the broth was really filling. For me.
So blending can give it the universal, the consistency that just goes down pretty easy.
Right.
Sometimes people are eating something and they do drink the broth, but then they leave all the other pieces in the bottom.
Right.
When you blend it, the consistency is really
it's all the
nice.
same.
So here we have the nice and blended soup. And basically this is the exact same soup. It's just all blended up, and we don't have to worry about the noise of the immersion blender for the time being. and I'm just going to strain it out through this sieve. Now, you don't have to do this. This is
That's my question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm opting to do this because there's quite a bit of pulp and vegetable matter still in the soup.
Okay.
Now, again, if you are fine with that, but if it doesn't suit you, and we'll go ahead and serve with the pulp in just because it looks so gorgeous, but as you see here, you can also strain it out. And this process will take a minute or so, but as you see, you just keep pushing with the ladle, and it'll come out the bottom, and you'll have a much smoother soup. So what we're going to do lastly...
It smells delicious in here, by the way, everybody.
Once we have it strained out, and so we'll sort of approximate here, we're actually going to take just a dollop of Greek yogurt to add some creaminess to it. I'll actually add 2 dollops. Why not? You could use sour cream here as well, but just in keeping with the theme, I think it goes really nicely. And it
And then
adds
for
that
those who
protein.
can't have lactose, what would be good to cream it up?
So, I say coconut milk, but
That was honestly my recommendation too.
cream, because cream doesn't have any lactose in it.
Like half and half.
Half and half,
Yeah.
or light cream, either one could do. I like the Greek yogurt because it is providing some nourishment. It's giving some protein to it.
And simple as that, we have our soup ready.
And and for some people that could be their meal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's great about this portion, I really used about 3 apples, a pound of parsnip, not really much at all. This could feed up to 4 to 6 people. So you have this nice, we're doing about a 8-ounce pour here, but again, these bowls just to show you. If you wanted to use a smaller bowl, smaller container, that's fine as well.
So that's really important what you just said. So if somebody doesn't want to eat, you don't want to give them something this big because they're going to go, no thank you. But smaller is going to be much more appetizing to someone who doesn't have an appetite. And the other thing I think is really important is we eat with our eyes, so make it visually appealing can also stimulate appetite at the same time.
And for me, it's actually hard for me to know when I'm full. So I have to really pace myself. But I did get a question about my CGM, if my insurance company covers it. Mine actually does. I got very lucky with my doctor's office. They were able to make a case that because I documented my numbers with a manual glucose monitor or like a finger prick, and they got so low that it really concerned my doctors, and they were able to make it a medical urgency for my insurance company.
That's a great question. But you had to show the data.
I really had to show the data, and you really need to self-advocate because a lot of doctors don't know what to do with us without a stomach. They think that we're living fine, we're feeling healthier, we're looking healthier, so then they treat us like every other patient, and we're not. So you really need to tell them how dangerous these glucose spikes can be if they continue with no help. Because it's helped me know how much I eat at a time, when I need to stop eating, and what foods really I shouldn't eat anymore.
Truly is a collaborative.
What did you add on top of the soup?
So this one a little heavy-handed, but just a bit of paprika.
Oh, okay.
For garnish, yep. So we'll do that as flavor. While we were discussing the questions, I also did add a bit of nutmeg and paprika to the dish that I had forgot to add earlier. You can kind of add those spices at any time. Of course, at the beginning is good. The only thing that you should not add at the beginning of a dish really is salt and pepper, because those are sort of what you fine-tune a dish with at the end, especially salt, of course. So we're going to go ahead and plate up. Looks like we're about ready on everything. So we've got the broccoli. You see it has a bit of brown to it, and we talked about this. Now, something you can do to help sort of keep the broccoli moist is add a bit of lemon juice or water to the pan. Its steam will help keep that moist for you.
And really, for those who have had stomach surgery, if this looks like a lot of food, really just
Cut it in half.
cut it in half, like have it.
So we're going to have chicken breast on each one. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and add our cream sauce. And so it's thickened up simply by the sour cream and the butter that we added. So it's got nice, we'll just give it a nice sort of glaze on the chicken itself, and of course it'll...
And the sauce really is the highlight of the
It
dish.
is.
And I really appreciate HelloFresh teaching me as a novice cook how to make sauces. I never knew how to make sauces until...
I think they can be very intimidating to beginner cooks because you think of sauces as this grandiose thing that you get at a fine dining restaurant, but realistically, like I showed you here, with a pan sauce, whatever you've cooked, you turn it into its own sauce. So we have here our soup, our entree. Thank you, HelloFresh. And our dessert's coming right up. So basically, about to plate that, what I have here is I've had the pears poaching in a liquid of just water, fresh ginger, cinnamon, and lemon juice, all mixed together, just steeping, basically. I'm gonna go ahead and plate that up. So I'll take, now the pears, honestly, you can poach them until they're almost fall apart tender. That will take a little longer than this. You'll see there's a bit of give, but they're still pretty firm. All depends on your preference. So we're just going to do 3 because, as a rule, always better to plate in odd numbers.
Yep, odd numbers.
Always better to plate in odd numbers. So set that down. Has a nice flavor to it. And the very last thing we're going to do, I'm actually going to remove just this one pear. That's a snack for me. We're going to take just a little bit of gelatin, powdered gelatin. We're going to add it to that poaching liquid that I just used for the pears to thicken it up. You really don't need a lot. I'm going to add a teaspoon at a time. And you're just looking for a bit more gel to it so that it can act as a syrup.
Is there a vegan way to thicken up a sauce?
There are a lot of different thickening agents out there, actually. Agar-agar, cornstarch. Again, it just depends on your certain parameters, dietary restrictions. But there are quite a number of vegan thickening agents and alternatives. So that's one good thing. All right. So starting to have a bit of gel to it. Now, you won't see the full gel until it cools down. And that's kind of how gelatin works. But for now, we've kind of given it a bit of syrup. Set that here. Last thing, we're just going to take a nice quenelle, kind of a little pillow of Greek yogurt. And we're just going to drizzle this right on top. Now, it's still a little thin to the eye, but if you'll see there's a bit of texture to it, certainly a little more. And that's more for flavor than color. We're just going to hit it lastly with a pinch of nutmeg for a nice garnish. And there we are, my friends.
Et voila.
Got a full course meal. And that about wraps up the cooking portion. It's so much fun bringing these items to you. Of course, my personal recipes. And thank you so much to our partner, HelloFresh, for this delicious entree. As Mary has said, we cooked this. All of us individually cooked this, and we've been sharing our experiences. The only real critique I can mention is just watch the salt content because, again, the chicken base is a little salty. But without any added salt, it's a phenomenal dish. And yeah, I really can't thank everyone enough. Thank you all for joining us, and thank Mary Eve and Jen for joining me. Great job, Jen, on getting your knife fundamentals down.
I feel better now about cutting things because that's always a fear for me. Am I going to cut myself? And 2, is this going to look really bad after I cut it out? Because I feel like I mutilate things as a novice.
Well, this is what I'll say, maybe as a sort of a word of wisdom for signing off is, even if it's macerated to all get out and... As long as it's edible, right? Exactly. It all goes to the same place. But really, thank you for joining us on behalf of Debbie's Dream Foundation. We really thank you, and thanks to our sponsors, Estella's, Daiichi Sanko, Merck, and Taiho Oncology. Thank you again. Bye. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.